Welcome to the Greatness Together podcast. Curious minds unite. Mother-daughter conversations that delve into the heart of psychology. Thanks for joining us.
I tripped over a dog.
You did?
I feel guilty. I've never tripped over a dog. That was the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah, because we're talking about guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I would feel guilty if
Yeah.
it depends on if the dog was having fun and playing with us or if it got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the example you're using is that the dog's hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't want to hurt a dog, so I feel guilty. But what is guilty?
Guilt, yes. So guilt, the reason why you would feel guilty is I did something bad.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you just tripped? What if it was an accident? Should you still feel guilty?
I
Should you still
would.
feel guilty?
I would. It's not a very nice thing to do.
Yeah. And so this is, even though it's a hypothetical example, this is why it's an important, actually, I'm so glad you started with that example. Yeah, because really, how often do we see something that's accidental or unintended or something that we have to do, and then we feel guilty about it, but actually we have nothing to feel guilty about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're just such kind people, it's hard to let go. But, it's from the heart, so, you just feel guilty. Mm-hmm.
Here, what do you think would be some of the things I would feel most guilty about based on what you know about me?
Being mean to someone.
I would definitely feel guilty. Hopefully that doesn't happen very much, but yes, if I was mean.
Not frogging someone.
What does frog stand for?
Frog recognize others' greatness.
Okay.
Or not having a frog like in your purse when you wanted to frog someone, when you wanted to recognize someone's greatness.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Just tripped on her
she
foot.
tripped.
Mhm. Yeah, so not recognizing somebody that is deserving of recognition. I might feel a little guilty, especially if I knew them well and if they didn't feel, yeah, actually I have some low level guilt sometimes when I leave a store and I feel like that person really needed a lift and I didn't take the opportunity.
Yeah, I should feel so bad. You should never sleep again.
But that's what I mean by low level guilt.
Yeah.
What do you think I feel like intense guilt about? What are the, here's how you know it, listeners, and Simonis, my lovest, darlingest daughteress. Here's how you know if you really care about that thing, if you really value it, that's likely the places where you feel the most guilt. Because guilt is, I did something bad. So you're probably the most likely to see something bad as problematic if you care a lot about it. So let me ask you this question in a slightly different way. What do I care a lot about and therefore I'm most likely to feel guilty about?
Your phone. No, I'm just kidding. Your children and family and work or like employees and stuff.
Yeah.
And your phone.
Why do you keep saying my phone? I lose my phone all the time.
Yeah.
If I feel guilty about my phone, I probably couldn't even just cope because I'm constantly losing my phone.
Yeah, her catchphrase is, "Has someone seen my phone? Where's my phone? Where are my AirPods? Oh, it's right in front of my face. Sorry."
And I don't feel any guilt about making my family run around and find my electronic accoutrements. Yeah. But you're right. Like, so all of those examples that you provided, my team, my family, and so it's all relationships. So because one of the things I care most about in life is being kind. And that goes back to the recognition piece too. Being kind, making sure people feel good about themselves, feel appreciated, know that they matter to me, feeling a sense of connection. And so I feel guilty about things like having to hold somebody accountable and have a difficult conversation and they feel uncomfortable with that.
Yes.
I used to avoid having difficult conversations. I used to avoid being assertive. I was a hardcore people pleaser.
Yep, still are.
Yes. And I've been learning lots of skills over time.
She's been learning a lot of skills over time.
Yeah, but you're right. At the root of it, I would rather never have a difficult conversation with anybody. Yeah. So I can feel guilt if somebody feels down or bad, even if I didn't cause it, and even if it really actually is beneficial to them in the long run.
Yeah.
What are things you feel guilty about, Simone? Confess them, please, to the entire universe.
Oh, there's a spider in there.
Squirrel. Listeners, you probably know that we have squirrel moments where all of a sudden, if you don't know what a squirrel moment is, where it's like your attention goes somewhere else and you can't help it. It's like when a squirrel runs by and it distracts you.
My brain's not quick like this. Guilty. Maybe not seeing friends as often or family as often or
Obviously, I think you have a strong value around quality time with people. But that's how you show that you love and you care about them.
Yes.
Because your two quickest examples were about not spending enough time with family and friends.
Indeed so.
There are 5 love languages. Did you know this? Love languages, how you show love to people. Quality time's one of them. Acts of service. Words of affirmation. That's me. Gifts.
Touch.
And physical touch. Yes, exactly. So I think quality time is one of your love languages. And so maybe you feel guilty if you don't feel you're giving enough time to them.
There we go.
And so
something out about myself.
And maybe that's why I feel guilty when I have to have a difficult conversation with somebody, because words of affirmation is my core love language. And if I have to say something that maybe makes them feel not affirmed,
crazy.
So here's the reality. Let's take this away from us and make this about our beautiful listeners. If you are feeling guilty about something, it's probably because you feel like you've done something wrong. And likely you haven't. There are very few things that we do that, and obviously when we have done something wrong and we feel guilty, that's our inner values saying you need to make this right, or you shouldn't do that again, or that is not you, or you're not at your best. So that is good intel. Think of it like this is good intel. But just like when we talked about in a previous episode, where we were talking about, what were we just talking about in the last episode?
Comparison.
We had this really great conversation. Oh my gosh.
About 2 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago. Oh my gosh. 47-year-old brain.
Oh my God.
Almost 48.
Crazy.
So just like comparison creates these sometimes these inaccurate loops, same with guilt. So if you actually have done something bad, make it right, take responsibility. But you know what? There's a lot of things. I felt guilty for so many years that I was not a good enough parent. Here we go, back to comparison. I just had the whole thing come together in my mind. So I have the most amazing mom. She was a stay-at-home mom. So she physically chose to raise us versus working. She baked cookies for us, baked bread. She she was always so calm and patient. And I, full-time working mom, commuting, 2 kids who, each had very different needs, and being like, our day would start at 6 in the morning and it would go until 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I never felt I was patient enough, available enough, paid enough attention, was a good enough playmate. I compared myself to dad. So not only was I not good enough as my mom, I also compared myself to dad, who was the one who loved to play with you guys. And he was very patient and still is. And yet what I'm better at as a parent is the listening, dealing with you guys when you're sad, dealing with like the struggle side of things. And that really showed up as a parent once you guys were closer to the double digits and now that you're adults. So I compared myself for years to this magical ideal of my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then which of course was totally out of context. It's a whole other generation. And this magical idea of dad. And no doubt little tiny pieces of all kinds of other people around me that I thought, "Oh, that person is more this and that person's more that." And it sort of came to this combination of I could never win.
Mm-hmm.
I just always felt guilty. But it literally never made me, I don't think, a better mom. I'm sure once in a while it gave me a sense as to, I think you need to maybe put your phone away or not do the email and spend time as a family instead. It made me realize that on family vacations, I needed to not bring my phone with me to dial into you guys. So I think it was helpful data points from time to time. But oh, you know what I wish I could do? I wish I could grab back all the emotional energy and cognitive bandwidth that I wasted on feeling guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys turned out great.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a good relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
so why was I beating myself up for, well, you're 18. So for years and years and years and years and years.
Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between shame and guilt. 'Cause shame is when you actually do something bad.
That's true.
You weren't doing something actually bad. You just thought you were.
Yeah, I wasn't out partying or having an affair or anything that would be things that I should probably fix and that they were causing you guys dad or you guys pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Whenever you're like, oh, I feel guilty. Did you actually do something bad? Or are you feeling shameful? Or no, shameful is when you actually did something bad, but guilty is not it's just when you think you did.
Right. So with the example of lots of people listening are probably working parents,
Mm-hmm.
and you probably don't feel like you're doing enough for your kids. So ask yourself, what would be worse? Not having a job and not working hard to provide for your family? Or, and that's probably way worse, is not being able to do the things that you need to do as an adult to be able to provide. So you may feel like you wish and you want to spend more time with your family, and maybe you need to make an adjustment or two, such as not being on your phone when the kids are playing, as an example. However, feeling guilty about working is useless, because actually it's worse if you didn't provide for your family.
Just know there's always more you could be doing, but that's what leads you to burnout and stuff.
Yes. I think we'll have to do a future episode on that. What do you think?
Oh yeah. That's our jam.
That's our jam. So what we will do is I think we should pause there so that we can have an invitation for the listeners to come back and think about burnout with us.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right. Unmanaged guilt, where you're in this unhealthy loop and you're just trying to do more in all the different places in your life, and it's not healthy. That you're right. That sets people up for burnout. So right now, the pause is, listeners, dear listeners, or viewers, if you're watching this on YouTube, next time you feel guilty, check to see if you truly have done something wrong. And if you haven't, you are given a permission slip. Can we get out your prescription pad? And we're writing your permission slip, we're writing your permission, and let's give that to our listeners. There you go. So you have your permission slip to not feel guilty because you didn't do anything wrong. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk in a future episode. Thank you for that idea about burnout, so that if you feel like you've been trying to do more in all the different places and you are exhausted emotionally, physically, cognitively, we want to help.
Yeah. Got the
last parting words for people your generation who might be feeling guilty about things.
Don't.
There you go. Do what she said.
Yeah. You didn't do anything wrong.
Yes. You know what? And here's how I want to invite them to think about it is, this is your future. Do not spend, and Simone, I'm going to say it to you, do not spend so much of your time, if you choose to be a parent, do not spend so much of your time worrying that you're not doing a good job, because it is just worry. We should do an episode on worry.
Indeed so. Wow.
Indeed so.
So much to stay tuned on.
Stay tuned on that. All right, Simone, I love you.
Love you too. Hey, yeah. Bye, listeners.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us for the Greatness Together podcast. Never miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you catch your podcasts. Yours in greatness, Simone and Sarah.